Thank you, Santos, for having me, and good morning to everybody.
Right.
Good morning.
You've listened to Vice President Bawumia, and he's enjoyed a lot of cheers from the party, and the party believes that even by this speech and presentation, he has reinvigorated them, and they are ready, and it looks like Ghanaians will give him that opportunity, like Kofi Bentil says, a fair hearing to him.
Yes, I have listened to the Vice President very well. I have listened to Kofi Bentil as well while I was driving. I'm in the country at the moment, so I've been driving in very rural areas. And a lot of the conversation is quite interesting. It is interesting because I have always disagreed, to start with, the analogy of a maize or a plantain. Reading the Constitution, I agree with you something that the Vice President is a fair driver. And a fair driver takes over driving the car in the absence of the driver. And therefore, if the vehicle is a commercial vehicle, if it makes a profit, the profitability of that vehicle inures to the driver and the fair driver. And when it makes a loss, the loss also inures to them. Why do I make this analogy? I make it because if you listen to Vice President Bawumia, he takes credit for the good things that have happened under this government, and rightly so. So he takes credit for the digitalization, rightly so. He takes credit for the early stabilization of the city, rightly so. So if he's taking credit for the positives of this government, why is he walking away from the negative? What happened to collective responsibility? So I can see what the NPP is trying to do by distancing himself from the negative of this current government. But I don't see how a fair driver can take credit for the profitability of the commercial vehicle, but say that the losses are only down to the driver. I just cannot bring myself to accept it. So let's go now to the Vice President's speech itself. He gave a chronology of things that this government had done that was good. And he said they were going to form the basis of the pivot that Kofi was saying that he's trying to make. So he clearly took those credits. Then says that he's going to abolish things like e-levy and the law, which were key policies of this government. We all saw the fighting in Parliament and people being brought in ambulances to come and vote and all that. So if you look at all this and how they went about it and how we were told that the e-levy was the solution to every problem Ghanaians, and that it was going to solve all our problems, from roads to stabilization of our currency and all that. If the Vice President felt very, very strongly about it, which the impression is that he did, he should have spoken out there. He should have put his alternative opinion out. We heard ministers in Cabinet who said that the Vice President agreed with the e-levy. Now we've heard some of those ministers, including Honorable Kofi Bentil, trying to explain that position to say, no, in actual fact, he had a different opinion, but he said so that they could get 100 cities exemption X, Y, Z. I don't buy that. I just don't buy that. So it is one of the other. Either the Vice President distances himself from everything that this government has achieved or failed at, or he takes responsibility for the successes and stands with the failures. He cannot have it both ways. And that is my position.
Interesting. Hold on quickly for a question from Nana Kumia.
Yes. Dr. Sarpong, I just want to be clear in my mind. Where did the Vice President distance himself from the government? Because when you listen to the speech, in fact, half the speech was on the performance of the government. Where did he distance himself from the government?
I am not, Nana, I don't think you got what happened. I don't think I am saying he distanced himself from the government. I said he distanced himself from certain failures of the government. Those are two clear distinctions. The failures of the government include things like e-levy, which hasn't brought the revenue. You understand me? And you say that I'm going to abolish it.
Doctor, one second. The fact that the man says I would have a different path does not mean that he's saying the current path is wrong.
Oh, so he's saying the current path is right.
He says that he will have a different path. A different path.
So is the current path right?
He hasn't said somebody is wrong or somebody is right. He says that I would have a different path.
Know his position on the current path, Nanakoya. If you would have a different path, there should be something wrong with the current path. If the Vice President cannot make a decision whether he's distancing himself from the current path, then I have a problem with that position. I see someone who's trying to be Jekyll and Hyde. And for me, as a president of a country, I don't want a Jekyll and Hyde.
Okay, you let him finish.
So he needs to be clear.
Kwame, those who make the argument say that he's only been in a position where he can't take decisions. He can only advise. And the advice is not binding on the president. So it is possible for him to pick out the portions where he was entrusted to do specific job. And that's what he says, that the president entrusted me with digitalization, this ABC, and I executed. So he should be able to leverage on that and say, look at that and see the promise I have.
I agree. And I said that from the outset, that he is part of this government and held at the hip to the president. That's why he's the third driver, not a lady. And therefore, I have no problem, absolutely no problem, with him taking credit for the things that have gone well and running with them. But where I disagree with the Vice President is when he says that because my advice wasn't taken on these XYZ, I am from what Madam Akomia is telling us now, from these XYZ, I wouldn't make my decision, no. I would start at a different time. No. You owe us a responsibility in a democracy to make us know what is informing your decision to start a different time.
He said so. He told us why.
Haj Suleimana says, and I think it's instructive. Suleiman says, if being a failure should debar one from becoming president, which I think ought to be the case for Ghana, then President Mahama is guilty. Even if we decided to put the sins of Akufo-Addo on Bawumia. But, as a matter of fact, Bawumia has never been president, unlike Mahama.
You see, something, I struggle with that line of argument. And that is why I agree with you about the spare driver analogy. If you tell me that President Mahama has failed at certain things, yes. I mean, I was one of President Mahama's strongest critics, and it's on record. There was so much I put out, and the history is there for everyone to go back and read. So yes, President Mahama failed at a number of things, in fact, many things. But let's look at one of the things I was very critical of President Mahama on, which was our perception of corruption. As someone who is a fellow of the DGB, the perception of corruption was very key to me. What is the perception of corruption of, say, the the NDC under John Mahama and the perception of corruption of the current administration.
Mahama's worst is Akufo-Addo's best. 4 years running.
Exactly the point. Exactly the point. And so if you say that President Mahama failed at certain things, I would want to be hearing why corruption perception is worse now than it was when President Mahama was president. I would want to hear the current vice president's view on why it is so and what he's going to do differently to arrest that situation. And that is why
Vice President Mahama says he's been the man behind the digitization of various entities. And this is what is bringing the reduction in corruption. At the ports and at various places, we have heard about the savings, huge amounts in millions that have been made because of the paperless systems.
Yes. And that is why I say I have no problem with him running with those successes. But the perception of the citizenry, has it changed as a result of what he's done? Is it not right for him to be telling us why, in spite of all these changes, corruption is perceived to have gotten worse? Is that not a justified position to hold? And is it not right for some of us to demand that he gives us an understanding of why corruption is perceived to be worse, even though he claims to have done all those things? That is the line of argument I want to have intellectually.
Okay. So as far as you are concerned, from where you sit in civil society and as an individual, unlike what Kofi Bentil sees into the future, as far as Bawumia is concerned, Ghanaians should rather give the opportunity to Mahama and not Bawumia. Is that the case?
At this point, something I've been clear with anyone who will listen to me. I haven't taken a position. But my position is similar to Kofi in saying that if you tell me that Bawumia should be given, Vice President Bawumia should be given a fair hearing, then former President Mahama should be given a fair hearing too. Because both of them have skeletons in their cupboard. And the key thing for me, which made me choose Nanado over former President Mahama, was corruption perception. And he's made it worse. And he's now telling me that his vice president, who is his co-driver, should take over from him. And I hear my friend Kofi Bentil then tell me, let's give the co-driver a fair hearing. And I'm saying, Kofi, we agree on most things, but on this occasion, I take a different view. Let's give them both a fair hearing.
All right.
And that's my position.
All right. Thank you very much, Kwame Sarpong Asiedu, CDD fellow, for joining us with your views.